Welcome to Let's Talk Cars Radio, your automotive specialist. Let's Talk Cars Radio is sponsored in part by Napa Car Care Centers, BDG Auto Group, by Liberty Transmissions in Virginia Beach, and by Bob Barnum and the Perfect House team. Be a part of the program today by calling 757-222-3705. Text your comments during the show to 757-866-2192. Email your questions and comments to Dave at letstalkcarsradio.com. Now, here's the host of Let's Talk Cars Radio, Dave Palach.
Happy Saturday, America. You're listening to Let's Talk Cars Radio on Freedom Radio. I'm your big host, Davey P, along with Karen Chaos and Nate VB. Hey, it is a great day for a radio show. It's a great day for a car show. If you guys are listening, you guys know that you need to 100% be out at... You guys know it. Rolling with the Knights car show over at Church of Ascension in Virginia Beach, Princess Anne Road. It is, the address is 4853 is where they're supposed to be at.
4853.
4853 Princess Anne Road. So, yeah, that is the place to be. Come out there, hang out with us, say hello.
We got the whole crew out there.
Yeah, whole crew. So it is a good setup. Liberty Transmission is helping sponsor that event with the trophies. So we will be out there handling that with them. And we have a Liberty's pick as well. So we'll be looking at all the different cars, finding our favorite and awarding them with the trophies. You guys aren't going to want to miss it. And of course, we'll have some games out there. You guys can play and donate some money to charity, all the good stuff. You know how it works. So it has been an interesting week this week. So the car industry itself, I don't know where it's going. Every time I turn around, it's like
downhill.
Well, uphill. You hear about electric cars, and then it's, well, maybe we don't want electric cars. And then it's like, well, things are getting hard to fix and finding parts and blah, 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 blah. And I got to thinking while I was having some conversations this week. So you guys know I love stopping into shops and talking with people and seeing what they got going on. And it seems like a lot of the shops that I have stopped into have that great problem we've been talking about where cars are sitting and you can't get parts for them, or you're waiting for the repair or whatever it may be. And cars have been, they're sitting for a lot longer, I guess, than what they need to. And a lot of that has to do with it's parts. Like I said, I've told you guys 1,000 times you can't get parts. But so I guess the question that I get hit with all the time, right, is it a part issue? Is it a manufacturer issue? Is it a shop issue? And a lot of times it's 100% is a part issue. But with that being said, sometimes you get demons in a car. You know, you could throw 100 new parts at a car and still have, all the same problems, right? If that makes sense. So what you end up having is talking with a garage this week, think about where they bought 3 new parts out of like maybe the 10 parts they put on the car. Those 3 parts out of the 10 were bad right out of the box. And you don't know because you've installed
what kind of parts? Like any parts? Or like electronic?
We've seen a lot in the industry alone, it's seen a lot of electrical problems. Okay. Just a lot of electrical gremlins with computers and wiring harnesses.
Like known brands, like OEM, or are they like third party? Or
both.
you kind of seeing it like in both?
Both.
Okay.
So talking with some of the garage, they've had stuff that's come right out of the dealership that has been bad right out of the box, and they've had stuff that's come aftermarket that's been bad right out of the box. And one of the worst things about it is let's say you get a computer, right? You got a computer problem and you end up getting a computer. And when you're doing all that, you install it, right? So you assume that the part's good. It's new. It's out of the box.
Whoa. I was about to say, and then you think it's new, and then you put it on, and it's not, and then you have to fight with the manufacturer.
It is new.
How else are you supposed to test to see if it works, though, without installing it? Okay, so
that's the problem. So a couple stories this week. Let's just say you install a new wiring harness.
Okay.
It's new, right? You had a bad wiring harness. You put a new wiring harness in. You take the time. Now, if you guys have never put a wiring harness in a car, it's not fun with everything in the way. And everybody's like, oh, I put wiring harness in a car all the time. It's easy. I'm like, yeah, but you're building a car, and most of the stuff wasn't in the way yet.
Dismantled already.
Yeah, right. You have everything all open. You could run it, and then you start putting all the parts back together, and it's not a big deal. But when you have the car all assembled, and you're trying to fish the wiring harness back out and get one in. So you take the bad one out, and you put a new one in, and then the car still has a problem. And you're not, of course, you know what? You're not thinking wiring harness.
Right, I always hate that. It's like you just put a new part in, so it has to be something else, right?
Right, absolutely. You're like, I just put this part in.
What's the odds that I got a bad part?
Okay, back in the day,
Rarely.
very slim, rarely. Nowadays, I know of just recently.
Well, that's because okay. Time out. That's because back in the days, you guys made what 10 parts to now. And I know the numbers are different. The numbers are different. You know, but your all's 10 parts to now are 100 parts is like we make thousands of parts in mass productions now.
I will tell you that.
Of course, we have failures somewhere.
I will tell you that I know back in the day. I say back in the day, but let's go back 15 years. That there was certain cars that I knew the parts tend to be bad right out of the box, if that makes sense. And I would order 2 of them at a time when I would order them.
Just in case?
Just because it happened to me so many different times.
Or you get like that certain brand, and it just keeps on kind of happening.
And it just kept happening over and over again. So let's say I needed to order like a body control module, right? I'd order 2. Because 9 out of 10 times, I kid you not, one of them was bad. And it was usually always the one I first put in is doesn't work, and I put the second one in, the second one works. And it just would happen to me. So when I would call, I'm like, just get me 2, and know I'm sending one back.
Right.
You know, just know one of them's coming back to you. We had that problem on the RAV4 for the long time. If everybody remembers, if any of you had a RAV4, you had problems with their computers, and they were sketchy at best. Now, keep in mind, a lot of stuff you had to get through aftermarket, but they were still sketchy. And they still are. Like, you still see those cars come through the repair shop, and they still have computer issues. And it's not the newest ones all that much right this second, but the older ones that you had out there. So you had that problem. But like I said, imagine you get a wiring harness, you put it in, and you're still getting codes and stuff in the car, and you're like, well, I know I put the wiring harness. It's got to be something else. And then you go through everything else, right? Because you think it's a computer, so then you get a computer for it, and you still got the code.
Right.
And all the different stuff to kind of find out it's the wiring harness you put in has a break in it somewhere, and you wouldn't even have thought about it.
You got to go all down that rabbit hole, searching for everything that could be.
Else. That's right. Everything else.
You ever heard of like green parts?
Green parts?
Yeah. So I was reading an article about, you can get like refurbished auto parts and stuff, and they're like 70% cheaper and stuff. So, like, do you ever like run into that problem where like you think it's a green part or they're not disclosing it?
There's a lot. So in the car market itself, there is a lot of manufacturers that we use that like the normal guy who goes to like Advance or Napa or AutoZone or CarQuest, you name it, insert a part supplier here, wouldn't use those people, right?
Right.
Like there's people that we, being in the business for as long as most of the people have been in the car business, we use companies that aren't household names by any means.
Right.
Like I know this guy builds these certain computers for this car, and that's where I'm going to order it from, right? No different in the transmission business.
You buy stock.
You guys go buy stuff from the regular parts supplier when like we buy stuff through names that aren't household names that you probably would never ever even think of or even know to do business with. Like if I said Relco, people would be like, oh, I know Relco. I'm like, but it's not the Relco you're thinking of. Relco is actually a parts manufacturer that has parts and they do refurbishing parts, but most people don't know that, don't use them. So, but you can find things.
Well, like the same company has a household name, but they also make a different product.
I'll give you another one. So I used to say all the time, I'm like, well, I'll just call Keystone and get it from Keystone. Nobody like a regular customer doesn't know Keystone, but they were a huge player there for a big part that you get a lot of different parts through them. They were
like Keystone tires?
No. Like they may be the same company that makes the tires. I don't know.
Maybe
they were making headlights and they were making computers and they were making all different kinds of other stuff. You could just get everything real cheap through them. It was real easy, and we used to use them for years.
There's a lot of them too.
Another one was API, which was the commercial side that a lot of people didn't know, and it was its own standalone, which is separate from one of the large part manufacturers that every customer normally uses, but nobody would know that name. And that we used to get tons of exhaust from them because they used to sell exhausts that were coated exhaust.
Right.
And if you're in one of the areas and you want a nice exhaust and you want it to last, having a coated exhaust was a real big deal back then. But like I said, the average customer that was going to do their own work wouldn't even know to even use that person. But with that being the case, you run into so many manufacturers of so many parts, you run into problems.
And they connect pretty well.
I can tell you there was a Volkswagen back in the day. You get water pumps from, and the water pump was bad. The impeller was bad on the inside of it. You'd put it on, and it would last a very short period of time. The impeller would come off. You wouldn't know because think about it: the water pump seals up, and the impeller's inside. You can't
find
see
out
it.
They don't make the impeller,
right? And you're like I just put a new water pump on it. Why is this car still overheating? You couldn't figure it out because you just put a new water pump on it. But what happened was the impeller actually has come off inside, and it's no longer. So the water is going, but the impeller's not
rattle?
spinning.
Wouldn't you hear the rattle?
You wouldn't hear it. I can't It happened on a lot of cars to me. A lot of cars.
Well, not only is this like affecting repairs, but it's also affecting like current production vehicles. Like
it is.
The 2020 Ford F-150 was impacted in production state
because they don't have all the parts put
together. They got all the parts except one.
So at some point, do you think like we're making the problems on purpose to a certain degree? Because like we also have like a chip shortage, right? And the chip shortage is because that we made a bunch of brand new EV cars and stuff. So it's kind of like we're feeding the problem because we're trying to push a new agenda.
So a lot of the cars that you're seeing in the repair shops now. So now you're getting to the point where you're starting to see.
Like, they don't want you to keep that old car.
17s, 19, 20, and 21s. Like, you're starting to see 21 back to, like, 2016s as all the failures, right? I got in a conversation this week where somebody was like, man, I feel like, and this isn't against you Ford guys, because I actually kind of defended you guys a little bit. Believe it or not, I defended Ford. Hold on, let me look up, make sure. So, but they're like, man, I just feel like my Ford truck's constantly in the shop. And I was like, well, don't feel bad.
You and everybody else.
I was like, I'm a Chevy guy. You guys know how I feel about my Chevy truck. I said, but Chevy trucks are falling out of the sky too. They're riddled with problems, just like the new Ford. And all in that year, from like 16 to 21, they're having problems with them. I'm like, it's not just you with the Ford. Chevy's having it. Dodge is having the problem. Believe it or not, there's been a little influx in Toyotas. Like Toyotas used to never have problems. Like you just never heard about Toyotas having problems.
I feel like you kind of go to that kind of problem where, the car is so new for so many years and it gets talked so highly, and until you start running into the same problems years later.
But the two cars you rarely heard anything about for the longest time. You didn't hear anything about Honda, you didn't hear anything about Toyota. They're just always off the map. You rarely saw them in the repair shop. Now you're starting to see them show up every once in a while. Like, I told you guys, on our new Camry, my Camry had 4,000 miles on it for the check engine light popped up on it. 4,000 miles. I'm like, why do I have a check engine light on a car that's got 4,000 miles? And it's electronic e-brake system, which now...
It's supposed to do that.
Yeah, Now, if you go, there's actually stuff online that talks about the electronic e-brake system on the Camrys, which they are having problems with it. But, of course, when I took my car in, I'm like, look, I think I'm having an issue. They're like, oh, I don't see anything wrong with it. I'm like, well, I'm not making it up. Like I always say, nobody takes their car to a repair shop because they got nothing better to do with their time, right? They just don't.
Nobody wants to sit there in the waiting room.
Or drop it off or whatever it may be. But apparently you can drop a car off for months now and it just sits there for months, and that's just what it's going to be. That seems to be just
people got cars laying around.
Every shop you go to has a story. They literally have a story where they have a car sitting in the corner. They got a couple. Some of them have 4 or 5 cars. They just can't get the parts to it. And I know the customer's frustrated, but what do you do? And so it's funny because as you sit and you listen to people talk, and you understand that this garage side frustration, right? Because they're like, man, I've tried everything. This car just seems to have, every time I put something on it, there's another problem and there's another part. And it's like, I can't seem to get rid of this car. And you feel for them, but then you start thinking about the customer side of it. Imagine the customer.
Right. All the problems they're going through.
So in some of these instances, the car leaves and it comes back. And it leaves and it comes back.
Right.
And it keeps leaving and coming back.
Trying to get it back to the shop.
Right, absolutely. And all that frustration. And they're just frustrated with the shop. But it's not the shop put this part on it and the car left, it drove away, didn't have any problems. And then all of a sudden it's got another problem. It comes, and then it's not the same problem, but it's a problem. And so you start,
especially when you were told like it's fixed, you should have no problem. So you might go on that beach vacation that you want to go on.
And you're on that vacation in the car. We've had it happen. You guys know we had it happen. I told you, I roadside with a toolbox on the side of the road. We fixing a water pump.
We picked the rental up. It had small little issues.
You guys heard the story. We picked up our renter car. We had to work on our renter car to make it work right so we could take it on the trip.
Now, the things that were wrong wasn't a big deal, but the small things that people don't know.
Most people don't have the knowledge to fix that stuff, right? I mean, we have the knowledge, but
most people don't have a toolkit in the back of their truck to be able to grab.
Well, they don't. Think of how many times I keep a toolbox, guys, in my truck that it's not a huge toolbox, but it's a full, but it has pretty much everything. If you really need to take a good majority of the car apart, you're getting it apart with that toolbox, and I keep it with me, and we have used it time and time.
Might not be the right tool.
But it's some tool. Right. Well, it's got all the sockets. It's got wrenches. It's got everything kind of in it. It folds up. It clicks in a case. Slides comfortably underneath the seat of the truck, and it pretty much everything. And then just to double up on it, as I've always told you guys, when I travel, I throw an electric impact with an extra battery underneath the seat too. So I have my impact, so I'm not sitting there having to do everything by hand. Just makes sense. But the average person doesn't have that knowledge. They have to take it to an auto garage, and then you guys are hinged to an auto garage for doing the work. And then sometimes, like I told you guys, anger is misplaced because it's not the auto garage's fault that they can't fix it, or because the car has gremlins. The biggest problem you have, right, in cars is when you start disturbing things and you got to take things apart to get to things. You had to take other stuff apart to get there. And it seems like once you disturb something, connections aren't made right, whatever it may be, it just turns into a big snowball. And it's not from them not, I mean, they've replaced the part that you paid them to replace. So that's done. But now it's like, this is the weaker link to the part. Now this part doesn't want to work right. And it's funny how it falls in. And like I said, as I was talking with the garages this week, I started thinking about, I told you guys when I was in the military, I went to a lot of different countries and stuff like that. I saw a lot of different crazy repairs, car stuff. And it's like, I started thinking about that and how that applies to everything, right? And it's kind of funny. I got some stories for you guys I want to share with you guys, but I got to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to dive in it. You guys hold tight. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Dave Palach on Let's Talk Cars Radio. Dave will be right back. Nobody remembers the name J.F. Whitlow and Sons Incorporated until you need them. But when you have a toilet problem, drains back up, pipes freeze, your heat or air conditioning stops working, then you remember J.F. Whitlow and Sons. Don't forget the phone number, 399-1714. That's 399-1714. Air conditioning and heating, and all plumbing. J.F. Whitlow and Sons have been serving Hampton Roads since 1949, residential and commercial. You can always count on J.F. Whitlow and Sons to get to you fast and get the job done right the first time. Located in Portsmouth and serving all of Hampton Roads. Those who know, call J.F. Whitlow and Sons. Call them at 399-1714. That's 399-1714. J.F. Whitlow and Sons Incorporated.
Something really cool happened in 1975. And no, it wasn't the beginning of the disco era. Congress passed the Magnuson-Moss Act, so you don't have to take your vehicle back to your dealer to keep your vehicle manufacturer's warranty in effect. Our Napa Auto Care Center uses the proper replacement parts and procedures to keep that warranty valid. Visit our independently owned Napa Auto Care Center today.
Hey guys, you asked for it and I delivered. Check out our all-star team of automotive specialists at NapaBDGHRVA.com. That's NapaBDGHRVA.com. Talk to you soon.
Hey Dave.
What?
Hey Dave.
What?
I've got a secret.
What are you, 12?
No, I'm just excited to announce Liberty Transmission is headed to the future.
You didn't buy a DeLorean, did you?
No, but we did get a brand new building. That's right, people. Liberty Transmission is moving to 3041 Holland Road to better serve the community. Check out our website for updates or give us a call at 757-233-3131. That's right, 233-3131. And remember, my name is on every transmission.
There's no place like home. Home is where the heart is. Home sweet home. Like every movie, book, and song, every story has a beginning and end. Let your story start today. Call Bob Barnum today at the Perfect House Team with the Real Estate Group.
Bob here from the Perfect House Team. From beginning to end, I'm ready to help you write your story. Call me today at 757-464-1003. That's 757-464-1003.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Cars Radio, your automotive specialist. Now, back to your host, Dave Palach.
Hey guys, welcome back. So, right before we went to commercial break, I was telling you guys, I had the, pleasure. I guess maybe I probably didn't think about it being pleasure back then, right? Because I was, in the military, you're all over the place. But, when you get older, you start thinking about all the places you got to see and all the things you got to see. You realize that,
places you've gone.
Right. It's funny because of the repairs and some of the cars and stuff that I saw in my travels and some of the stuff I had to deal with in my travels. Okay, so imagine that you had to find a way to fix your car, and parts are hard, and that's what we're starting to run into. It's not as bad as this, but if you guys ever heard the Cuba story, there was a car show that used to be a TV show that used to be on it where they had
Cuba repairs or something like that. It was like the sun and It was the kid and the father, and they would go rob stuff. Not rob, but no, they would like talk about like they would take random stuff off of other cars.
So they had a source, like they had like make parts off of like a car that the part never belonged on. Cameron's like they'd go rob stuff.
No, that's not what I meant.
They had to go source parts off of other cars that they didn't fit, and then make them work, right? And to me, that's being resourceful, right? So,
you got to be, especially when there's more cars every day, being produced, getting crushed. I mean, it's just not,
there is.
You're not finding everything in the scrapyard nowadays.
You have to
come on. How do you think we found out other parts fit on other cars? Because of them. Come on, now. They helped.
There's been many instances, like Nathaniel and I were talking about it. Back when I was, heavily into the car game, and I did it for a living before I retired. I always thought I was extremely resourceful. So I'd call a manufacturer, and the parts, well, it's on back order, or you can't have it for, and we run into that a lot right this second. I'm like, okay. So then you go to your aftermarket, line of things. You try to see if somebody has
right,
it.
Or the manufacturer.
Right. No, I went to manufacturer first. They told me, So then I go.
You were the supplier. My bad.
Right. So then I go afterwards to the suppliers, and they're like, I can't get it for you either. So then I'd call every single junkyard source. And I'm like, okay, do you guys have one that, at the junkyard that I can, I got to get this person back on the road. And everybody goes, you put junkyard parts in a car? Trust me. Okay, if y'all don't know, a junkyard part, if it works just as fine as it did.
I was about to say, it's not a junkyard part. Junkyard cars are just cars that somebody was driving just like you one day and got into an accident, and now we are just getting the parts that you paid $70,000
Some parts are junk.
No, some of them are junk, right?
But like some parts are demolished.
I mean, they are. But I mean, sometimes okay. So, perfect instance in the conversation Nathaniel I was having. There was a car I couldn't find the part for. Nobody had it. Everything was on back order. I think like 2 of the parts that I was looking for on it was like discontinued. I mean, you name it, it had a problem. So thinking outside the box, my biggest thing was always trying to get the customer back on the road. I mean, that was just very, very important to me, which matches up with watching that show from Cuba where they were doing anything could to get the car on the road, right?
That makes it work.
I bought an $800 knuckle where the manufacturer was trying to sell a brand new knuckle for $800 before it was installed. Went to another car that wasn't even mine that had the same exact knuckle.
But it is the same car.
It's just same car, but not. Different make model. You guys know what I mean.
It's not make and model. Same make and model.
Yep. It's a G37.
It's an Infiniti and Nissan is the same thing.
It is.
It's the same thing. Keep on trying to convince yourself that they're different. They're not.
They are. One's faster.
No.
They're both sports cars in their division.
The point is, I bought something that was worth $800 for $50.
No,
so, sometimes it works out.
Resourceful. So here's the thing. Resourceful. I, in this situation, couldn't get the parts to the car because nobody had them. So I got onto, back then it was Craigslist. Now you guys have Marketplace, but Craigslist.
It's still not that good.
Whatever happened to offer up and let go?
I think they let go. And they had nothing to offer up. So, but I literally went to Craigslist and I found the car that I was working on and had been in an accident. The back of the car was smashed. I needed engine parts. So I bought the whole car. If I would have bought the parts that I needed for the car, it was like $700 if I could have got the parts, which I couldn't get them.
Right.
It was $700. I bought the whole car wrecked for $500. I towed it to the shop. I took the parts off I needed off the engine. And I called the customer. I said, I got your problem solved. Here's how I solved it. So it's not like you're like, not trying to tell the customer. No, I was like, look, you needed the car. This is how we solved it. Like, I needed an intake for it and some other things for it that I just couldn't get. Nobody had them.
Like you said, the part isn't bad.
Yeah, the part was fine. So I took them off. I was able to get new gaskets and stuff. So I took the intake, the gasket, and swapped everything over I needed to. And the customer was on their way. Now, to me, that's just creative thinking because I couldn't get the parts. I mean, I didn't know when else we would get the parts. I've told you guys before, I had in the past, I'd have cars that sit there for 2 or 3 months because I couldn't get the part. A national back order. What do you want to do? I can't get it. Nobody has it.
Even if you got to make something up, right? And stuff, but it should be the quality of OEM.
It's the hard part, though.
Well, I'm just saying, but if you're going to do it, it should be quality of OEM style.
Right, absolutely. I mean, there's some stuff you can
Why do you think every auto shop has a bolt bucket? I mean, go grab a bolt out of the bucket.
Do you all remember when you guys were young, I took you all to the junkyard and I handed you guys wrenches. I was like, just grab all those bolts and then pull all those fuses and give me all those relays and throw them in the bucket.
That's hardcore money right there.
I used to do that, but I was in the business and I realized that bolts just break or that, and it's really expensive. You guys are in the car market. You guys know. We all have a bolt bend, but you never have always the right bolt in the bolt bend. So when I go to the junkyard, I'd have to go grab a part or something like that, and they went with me. I'd have them unbolt a bunch of bolts and throw in the bucket. I grab all the fuses, all the relays, everything, and throw in a bucket. Pay very little for it, and then just have it. I can't count how many times that's what he's talking about. That you go to that bucket, and I'd have the bolt that you needed in that bucket that you couldn't. It isn't our bolt bend. It's not the right one. It's close, but it's not the right one. But it works. I need a relay. Well, I can't get you a relay for 3 days, and I'm like, go in the bucket and see if there's a relay in there. Sure enough, we'd have a relay in the bucket, and you plug it right in. The customer's back on the road. And I tell the customer, hey, I had that bolt in my bolt bend. I had that relay. Here's what I do. I go to the junkyard, I throw them in a bucket when I need them, and it just so happened I had yours in the bucket. Congratulations. You know what I mean? But you're today's winner. They're thinking outside the box.
Right,
though,
it's getting it done.
Right,
you need your car.
The car's on the road. It's just what it is.
It costs money if it's sitting or if it's running.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, it's one of those things. So when I was watching that show, and it said I don't know why they took it off TV. I remember. So I was in Cuba for a while, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, maybe 6 months. I can't remember. It's been so long. I was there for a little while, and I was shocked. And that was way before this TV show was ever on. They were stuck in the Stone Age, like with car, like it's like time just stopped. And and my understanding is that's when all this stuff happened with our government, and we stopped doing trades and all that kind of stuff. So wherever they stopped, that's where they were stuck in. So there was a lot of old cars, and that's what people were driving, were these old cars. And then you start looking at the marvel of how they've gotten them to stay together. I saw,
were they kept nice, or were they kind of just really put together?
Some are nice, but some are just put together. There's raggedy.
I'm about to say, I've seen, we talk about some of our cars like, oh man, this has gone out, or this is making a noise. The brakes are making a noise. I've seen cars in other countries that have no doors or no tires running down the road.
Look,
perfectly fine.
That's nothing. I've seen cars that have the wrong door. Apparently the hinge just matched up. They hinge pinned it. The door is closed, and there's a bungee cord because the door doesn't match up to the gap, and it's just bungee cord, and that's just the door.
A door? What are you talking about? I got a baby gate as my door. Okay. You seen that one?
Yeah, I've seen it. But I'm just saying, it's very interesting, and so I understand how they get to that point, right? Where they're like, I'm just going to make this work. I've watched where
some people got to do it though.
The wrong brake caliber, but somehow they've made a bracket and got it to go on there, and now that brake caliber stops that car, but it's got a completely different one on the other side. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're like, huh? But that's just one side of the coin, right? So different.
They only had half the money, guys.
Right, they only had half the money. But I've been in some countries where I see cars I've never seen before, and that's what I always knew there was other cars out there. But this was when I was younger. Man,
you talking about like exotic or just like unique cars that you just don't see around here?
Everyday cars. Some are exotic. Some are a little bit of everything. I'm like, man, I've never seen that car. And then we didn't have the, you guys remember, we didn't really have the internet like we use now. Back when I was, younger and in the military, the internet was there, but nobody was using it. We weren't massive searching stuff like you could just one click on your phone and see something. Back then I'm like, man, I wonder what that is. It's not like you got back to a computer and go look it up and find out, oh, that's, Nissan makes this. Every once in a while you'd see a badge on it. I'm like, that's a Nissan? I've never seen that Nissan before. And then that's when I started realizing that they've made a lot of cars for other countries.
It's like a prototype. Yeah, exactly.
No, it wasn't they mass production. Mass production of that car, it just never comes to this country. And I'm like, oh, man, that car should have came. I remember the first time I saw Holden Company, which is a division of Chevy. But
you don't see them around here.
Well, every once in a while, one's been imported. You see around here, but they have a whole another line of cars that it. So Holden is, if you guys don't know, most of you guys know, listen to the show. But if you don't, Holden is a division of Chevy, and they make cars for Australia and I think another couple other countries. Don't.
Is it its own line, or is it like a pickup truck? Is it like a sedan?
So they have an El Camino.
That's
really? That's a newer.
They go wild.
Yeah, they have a newer El Camino. They had there's a sedan. I can't remember what the name of it is.
And is it just it's fitted cars with features that go with that region, right?
Yeah, they have Chevy parts, so they have the LS motors in them and stuff like that. But but the body designs are completely different on it. Interior setups are different on it. I think I'm sure they rob parts from a little bit of everything. But I remember the first time I saw one of those, and then I saw Toyotas that weren't sold here in America that are sold in other countries that I went to that are pretty cool. And I'm like, oh, that would have been a hit in America. If they would have made that and put that in America, that car would sell, I think, very well.
Did you ever kind of look up and see why some of those aren't
I know, because
made it
back
over
then,
here.
like I said, we didn't use the internet like that. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? And nowadays, I would have my phone. I did it standing over the top of the car, and like, what is this and why? You know what I mean? To figure it out.
Right.
But we didn't have
Quick
that
search.
opportunity. I just remember seeing like I was shocked when I was in Cuba. I saw two old Trans Ams in Cuba, but both of them were sitting on blocks, and parts had been robbed off them. But it was just cool. I was just like, oh well, you know,
Good to see him rust.
Good to see him rust. But you start to try to figure out how they got there, because Trans Am was way past the cutoff. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's
Look,
like,
So you know they've been there for a little while.
Look,
yeah,
back then they didn't have computers. They had to go to Racer's Edge and go try to talk to Tony and get the. You guys don't even understand that car.
no, we had the little paperclip that used to hop around on the screen.
the
Like, what would you like me to do?
Yeah, and you would have, and if you didn't
we just
click
left it to
him for a little
curiosity.
bit, yeah.
No, it
Yeah.
is. It like I said, it's just a completely different world, right? I mean, it just is. And like I said, so I went to Germany, right? Germany, like, just
Blew my
mind. I got to take a quick commercial break. I will tell you about Germany, because I was just a little shocked by Germany and jealous at the same time. I wish I was stationed in Germany at that point in time. That's how jealous I was. Let me take a quick commercial break. When I come back, I'll tell you guys about it. Hold tight.
You're listening to Dave Palach on Let's Talk Cars Radio. Dave will be right back.
Hey, Dave.
What?
Hey, Dave.
What?
I've got a secret.
What are you, 12?
No, I'm just excited to announce Liberty Transmission is headed to the future.
You didn't buy a DeLorean, did you?
No, but we did get a brand new building. That's right, people. Liberty Transmission is moving to 3041 Holland Road to better serve the community. Check out our website for updates or give us a call at 757-233-3131. That's right, 233-3131. And remember, my name is on every transmission.
There's something special about Napa Auto Care Centers. They're backed by the national strength of Napa. Nationwide warranties honored by thousands of locations. You know that's Napa know-how. But more importantly, your Napa Auto Care Center is independently owned and operated by neighborhood professionals who operate by a written code of ethics. Put your vehicle in the hands of ASC certified technicians who will greet you with a smile you can trust. Visit us today.
You heard me say it, and now here's your chance. Now's the time to go find your auto garage. Don't wait until it's too late. Go to NapaBDGHRVA.com and find your all-star car care center today. That's NapaBDGHRVA.com. Talk to you soon. Hey guys, Dave from Let's Talk Cars Radio. So for the last 2 years, if you listen to the show, you've heard me talk about my dream house. It has been a great experience buying land, building my house, even selling my old house. One thing I didn't tell you about was the real estate agent that I used. I used Bob Bardem from the Perfect House team in the real estate group. It's been one of the best experiences I've ever had. Bob has been there for us from beginning to end and treated us just like family. I'm telling you, you've heard me talk about this because it has been one of the truly best experiences that I've had. If I did not choose Bob, I don't think that I would have all the best things to say about building this house. So, if you're looking to buy or sell a home, definitely give Bob a call at the Perfect House team in the real estate group. You can contact Bob at 757-464-1003. That's 757-464-1003. And I'll talk to you soon.
Nobody remembers the name J.F. Whitlow & Sons Incorporated until you need them. But when you have a toilet problem, drains back up, pipes freeze, your heat or air conditioning stops working, then you remember J.F. Whitlow & Sons. Don't forget the phone number, 399-1714. That's 399-1714. Air conditioning and heating, and all plumbing. J.F. Whitlow & Sons have been serving Hampton Roads since 1949. Residential and commercial. You can always count on J.F. Whitlow & Sons to get to you fast and get the job done right the first time. Located in Portsmouth and serving all of Hampton Roads. Those who know, call J.F. Whitlow & Sons. Call them at 399-1714. That's 399-1714. J.F. Whitlow & Sons Incorporated. Welcome back to Let's Talk Cars Radio, your automotive specialist. Now, back to your host, Dave Palach.
Hey guys, welcome back. So, before we went to commercial break, I was telling you guys about the different cars, different countries, and the things I've seen how they repaired cars. Now, in Germany, it was different. So everything that I saw in Germany was nice, like really nice.
Were they on the other side of the road?
I think they were. I'm trying to remember. I know I was on a bus going like 120 miles an hour in a bus.
On a bus?
On a bus.
On a bus?
And cars were still passing us like we were standing still.
With no guardrails.
Was that kilometers?
No, it was a mile. Like we were flying. Like we were flying in a bus. Like I've never gone that fast.
Nate got it.
And probably never want to. I know what you meant, and I don't think I ever want to go that fast again. But one of the things when I was there, so I was military and I was young, and when I was on base, like all the like seamen, it was Navy, so like seamen apprentices and stuff like that. They're driving around really nice cars. I know I told you guys this a little bit about this before, but like they had like Porsches, nice Mercedes, nice BMWs, and I was driving a Cavalier, guys. So kind of tell you, mine was brand new. I bought it brand new off the showroom floor when it first came out, and I was proud.
In Germany, or did you ship it over?
No. Mine I bought it here in the States.
Okay,
but so I was in Germany.
Cavalier, man.
But I remember I used to smoke back then. I was sitting outside, I was smoking. I see like a 911 go by, and I'm like, oh man, that's a really nice car. It's got really nice wheels on it. I mean, it was a nice car. And then he parks, and I see like this kid get out of it, and I'm like, oh, well,
Pops is over here going, this must be a sergeant.
No, not even that. Because
this must be a captain.
Maybe a captain, right?
He starts to see these like kids come out. He's like, wait a minute.
So I'm sitting, I smoke a cigarette, and
what's your rank, son?
Maybe like 2 minutes later, a really nice tricked out Mercedes comes into the parking lot and it parks, and this other kid gets out. I'm like, man. So
who was y'all's recruiter? What signing bonus did you get?
I get the raw deal on this. After a while, I start recognizing that there was like a lot of nice cars in the parking lot. There was like nothing junk. I mean, they were nice, and most of these cars, because us being car guys, we don't know how to leave things alone. They all had like wheels on them. They were lower. The cars looked down. I'm like, man, this parking lot's like, it looks like a showroom like of cars in the parking lot. So I got to talking with some of the guys, and they're like, look, the cars here, they're junk to them. Like they get some miles on them, and they don't want them. They just go out and buy something new, and we buy these things for nothing. Now here's the thing: everybody's like, well, man, I would do that. They're not USA spec, okay? So they're German spec. They don't have all the braces.
I don't think a lot of people understand what that means, but basically he's saying like United States will make us install one emission part rather than other countries will be like, forget about it.
Well, not just so much that. The biggest problem is the bracing in the doors and stuff like that, so they're not required. So a lot of the cars don't have all those bracings that you need to have that car in the United States. And the only way that you could bring the car to the United States was have somebody go in and
modify it
and stuff. That was the big thing. So of course they were enjoying those cars while they were in Germany, but as far as bringing some of those cars back with them, they're going to pass it down to the next guy that gets stationed there. You know what I mean? It's just the way it's going to happen.
They're just going to pass it to another military man and just make an extra 1,000 on it because they already got it for cheap, you know.
But they were nice. And I was like, okay, so what's the cost to have it converted? Like some of the conversions weren't bad. They're like $5,000, $6,000. So if you had a 911 and you were in the military and you're a young man, and it was $5,000, $6,000, which was quite a bit of money back then, but still $5,000-$6,000 to have your 911 converted so it can be shipped back, like
regardless of the pay for the States.
It was you might want to grab a couple of those if you could afford it, you know, to bring them back with you. But
buy them bulk.
So then
that's actually how Japan is. You know, I've been looking at their conversion rates. One, our money is just
you can't bring those. They got to come back as parts, right? The second you can't. Right.
There's certain ways you can do it, but yes. Technically, you would have to take off at least 3 of the wheels and remove the engine.
I've seen videos of that.
And remove
taking the least amount of parts off.
Remove the engine from it.
I know there's a lot of stuff. I don't know all the tricks of the trade, but I know that there's
as long as it ain't front bumper up, back bumper.
They gotta have all kinds of stuff.
Technically, it's not a car if you remove the axles. I mean, hey,
if you take the engine out,
if it ain't got a steering wheel, is it really a car?
Now, like I said, when I was in Italy, one of the things that like kind of I wasn't really impressed with anything there. Like I didn't see anything there.
Well, a lot of them are small cars,
yeah, they're smaller cars and stuff like that. Now, when I went to
the Cavalier stood out.
The Cavalier still good. No, here's the thing. So I told you guys about my Cavalier. I bought a Cavalier, and the reason why is because I had a mini truck at the time, And driving a mini truck long distance from where we're at back to Chicago, which just wasn't feasible to drive a mini truck. So I bought a Cavalier to make that drive back and forth. Right. Well, I mean, my mini truck got good gas mileage. It was lowered. It was sitting on wheels, and it wasn't practical. I mean, it's just not practical.
What, back then, 7 miles a gallon?
No, it was more than that. A lot more. I think I want to say that thing got like 22 miles a gallon. Probably.
Man, you're getting better than I am. Wait a minute.
But so I bought the Cavalier just so the ride comfort and all that kind of stuff to go back and forth. It was a great car. It was a great car until it wasn't. A mechanic I let work on it and messed up, and the motor was never the same after that. I even had another motor swapped into it under warranty, and the car just never ran the same. It just and I was sad because I had that car and it ran so great. I know it's just a Cavalier, don't get me wrong, but the car ran perfect. I mean, like I never had any problems.
Was it really a physical thing, or do you feel like mentally it just never ran the same?
No, it didn't run the same.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it never ran the same.
Some people are just like, they have that ick where they're just like, something's been touched. I know something's been touched.
No, okay, so if you guys remember the Cavalier, you guys, that technicians that worked on, or anybody that owned one, they, within like the first 20,000 miles, had a tick to the motor. They had a ticky noise. Just tick, 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 tick. It was real light, but you could hear it. With the hood closed, you could hear the ticky noise.
Back then, they would say that's not normal. Now they say that's eco mode, okay?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it wasn't normal in that car. What it ended up being on the Cavalier, and like I said, technicians that were in the know, those that don't, they used a hardened like plastic timing gear set that was on it. And the ticky noise you could hear was actually the chain or whatever going around that timing thing. They ended up making a replacement for it that was metal. When you put the replacement in, it wouldn't make the ticking noise. And it's not that it was time for one. At 20,000 miles, obviously it's not time to do the timing on it.
Right.
But once you replace it with the upgraded timing set, the car never ticked again. And I did mine right at about, it was driving me nuts. So I did it right at about 20,000 miles. And then my motor was whisper quiet. Never made any noise. Now, move forward, I let somebody work on my car, and they didn't put the fuel injector in it with a seal on it, and it flooded the cylinder and then destroyed the motor. When I got the next motor, the motor just always was louder than what my motor was. Now, keep in mind, I also told you guys I'm a little weird. I change oil at like every 3,000 miles on a car religiously. Sometimes if I'm going to go on a road trip, and if I go on a road trip and come back, it'd get an oil change. Even if I didn't hit the 3,000 mile mark, I just drove that thing for 14 hours straight one way and 14 hours straight the other way. As soon as I got back, it got an oil change put on it. You know what I mean? That's just me. I still do that to this day.
You know what happened, right? Engine was on backward, so they had to go get it from back.
No, that wasn't it. But it never sounded the same, and we ended up getting rid of it because it just was I couldn't.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know it's just a Cavalier, but when you have a car, like I told you guys before, one of my favorite cars I've had, and I've had a lot of different cars that are nice cars.
Jimmy.
But my GMC Jimmy. I loved my GMC Jimmy. It never gave me problems. I put 278,000 miles on that thing, and it still ran like a champ. Was whisper quiet. Never had any problems with it.
I do wish me and Nate had like a chance when we were teenagers to be able to at least drive the Jimmy, but
you all liked the Jimmy because it had a stereo system in it.
Yeah, had a wicked stereo system.
Jimmy was just like a boat. That was the definition of a boat.
No, it wasn't. It was slimmer than a Suburban.
Yeah, it's small.
It was a nice little.
It guided like a boat.
It seemed big to you because you guys were tiny
small,
back then, right?
We weren't tiny. No,
you guys were like, what are you guys, 7? Like, 7, 8, 9?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so it seemed big.
I don't know. Whenever Blockbuster was still around.
Yeah, Blockbuster was still around. But no, I mean, I loved my Jimmy. There's certain vehicles that I've had that I didn't pay a whole lot of money, what I feel like a whole lot of money for, that were great vehicles.
What was valued at?
You're right. Well, you're right. There were great vehicles. I bought the Jimmy from an auction, is where I ended up getting it from. I bought it right out of an auction here in town. And then I went through and fixed everything on it. I went through all the braking system. I went and put new shocks on it. I told you, everybody, if you ever heard me tell the stories about that vehicle, people joke me because they always called it whatever the current year was. Mine was the 2001, 2005 GMC Jimmy, the 2001, 2006 GMC, because it made a squeak, a fart, you name it, it got a new part put on it. Like anytime it made a funny noise, it was on the rack, and I was having my technicians go and like, tell me what that noise is, and put a new part on it. Because I don't like drive cars with noises. I can't do it. It drives me nuts. So that vehicle got a lot of attention, but it also didn't give me any problems. It was another good purchase for me.
Now cars nowadays give you a problem after the first 4 months. So hey, welcome to new life. Hi.
Well, like I said, here's the thing.
It's new interventions, or not interventions, but new technology.
Right. All right. I'll give you a perfect example. So when I went to Spain, right? I told you guys Italy. I wasn't really impressed with anything in Italy. When I went to Spain, they used Mercedes for taxi cabs.
Mercedes?
They were Mercedes-Benz were used for taxi cabs everywhere when I was in Spain. So
instead of the big M on the front, did it have like a big T?
No,
for
it
taxi?
didn't. But it did have taxi signs on top of them, and I thought that was just weird because for us, Mercedes are nice. I mean, they were nice there too, but that's what luxury car. You know what I mean? And they're using them just as taxi cabs. And I'll tell you what that taught me. And everybody goes, "Why is that relevant?" Because when I got back to the States and I left the military and I ended up getting heavily into the car business, stuff like that, we needed a loaner car for the garage I was working at, and I bought a Mercedes as a loaner car. And the reason why I did that is because I saw the abuse when I was in Spain that they could be put through because they did not take care of them there, and they just kept on going down the road. And I was like, we need to get it. And sure enough, best thing I ever did, because we had over 300,000 miles on our Mercedes loaner, and it was still going down the road without a problem.
Pops is like,
I learned that from being in Spain and seeing them using them as taxi cabs. I'm like, well, if they're using them as taxi cabs, they must last.
We got Crown Vics here in New York, and they got Mercedes Benz over there.
That's a car you can't kill.
I'm pretty sure they're incentivized, right, to probably buy those cars.
No, they are. Hold on, we keep on going. We're burning through it. I got to take another commercial break. When we come back, we'll follow up on this, guys. You guys hold tight. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Dave Palach on Let's Talk Cars Radio. Dave will be right back.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Well, here's a pound of prevention from your Napa Auto Care Center. We'll customize a preventive maintenance package for your vehicle that will save you time, money, and hassles now and down the road. We'll ask, do you drive mainly in the city or on the highway? Plan to keep your vehicle? How long? And more. Preventive maintenance is a good thing that prevents bad things. Build yours at your Napa Auto Care Center today.
Hey guys, Dave Palach from Let's Talk Cars Radio. Do you currently have a repair shop you trust? Haven't found the time to go to a garage for all your automotive needs? Check out the all-star team at Napa BDGHRVA.com. That's Napa BDGHRVA.com. Let them show you what it's like to work with the professionals and make a friend along the way. Talk to you soon.
So you're ready to make a move. Whether buying or selling a home, you find you have more questions than answers. You're wondering if you're even asking the right questions or where do you go from here? Stop, take a deep breath, even count to 3. Buying or selling a home is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make. Every house has a story. Let yours begin now by calling me, Bob Barnum, with the Perfect House team at the Real Estate Group. Call me today at 757-464-1003. That's 757-464-1003.
Nobody remembers the name J.F. Whitlow & Sons Incorporated until you need them. But when you have a toilet problem, drains back up, pipes freeze, your heat or air conditioning stops working, then you remember J.F. Whitlow & Sons. Don't forget the phone number, 399-1714. That's 399-1714. Air conditioning and heating, and all plumbing. J.F. Whitlow & Sons have been serving Hampton Roads since 1949, residential and commercial. You can always count on J.F. Whitlow & Sons to get to you fast and get the job done right the first time. Located in Portsmouth and serving all of Hampton Roads. Those who know, call J.F. Whitlow & Sons. Call them at 399-1714. That's 399-1714. J.F. Whitlow & Sons Incorporated.
Hey, Michelle, thanks for coming in.
No problem. What is that?
Oh, Curtis dropped that off earlier this week. He calls it the excitement button. Every time you say Liberty, I'm supposed to push this button.
Liberty?
Yeah.
Liberty?
Oh, yeah.
Liberty?
Liberty Transmissions for the working man.
I don't know about this, Dave.
You gotta admit, it's got a ring to it.
Liberty Transmission, 233-3131. That's 233-3131. Better yet, visit them today. 5160 Singleton Way in Virginia Beach. 233-3131. Liberty Transmission. Welcome back to Let's Talk Cars Radio, your automotive specialist. Now, back to your host, Dave Palach.
Hey guys, welcome back. Hey, so it's kind of funny because we're talking in the last segment about Mercedes in Spain being used as a taxi cab. But it got me thinking. I remembered a car. Most of you guys remember this, but the Toyota Cressida. Like, it wasn't a hip car. It wasn't like a really cool car or anything like that. But I will tell you, as I was just telling them, it get up and go. Like, my buddy would like have 5 people in that thing, and that car would still like move. Like, the Cressida just turned out to be kind of a cool kid car.
Was
there
it like
for a while.
Small car?
And then Nathaniel goes, "What about the Crown?" I totally forgot about the Crown. If you guys never seen one of those, I completely forgot about the Crown and now I'm talking about the Crown Vic. Talk about the Crown.
The Crown.
The Crown.
The Crown.
Yep. So that was a car, and then a lot of the cars you like. I think that kind of got us to where, as far as I'm concerned, growing up as a kid, some of the cars that they were like the staple of like transportation, right? So the Chevy Chevette. So I saw a Chevy Chevette.
That used to be a common name too.
I saw a Chevy Chevette yesterday for sale for $3,900. It's like an '86 Chevy Chevette. I'm like, why?
That's
like,
what you bought it for.
That's what you bought it for.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think a Chevy Chevette back then, fully loaded, brand new. I think it was like $1,700, brand new for a Chevy Chevette. Yeah, look it up, see what it is. But I believe it was like $1,700 for one brand new. They want.
See,
like,
you just don't know what you have until you have it.
And now there's one that's sitting. That's
that
not,
literally
not,
is.
By the way, this Chevette that I saw is not nice. It's not like it's pristine.
That's the definition.
It needs a whole lot of work, and they're still getting over $3,000 for it. I'm like, what in the world's going on? But they were still like, okay, the Ford Escort. Tell me, like, look around, guys, when you're on the road, and tell me, where did all the Ford Escorts go? We were littered with them. There were so many Ford Escorts.
Isn't that the funny thing though? Is that like when you see cars littered all over the place, and then all of a sudden there's nowhere to be found?
Right? Like it.
I just got a question. Seriously. Did the Facebook post say sold as is, or I know what I got?
Saw it live in person.
Live in person.
Live in person. I saw it out for sale live and in person.
Man.
Yeah. So of course I had to kind of look at it. That's why I said it wasn't nice. Like it's there. It looks like it's complete. Has most of the parts. But over $3,000 for something that you wouldn't have paid that much for it new. I'm trying like. Here's another one. One was like you used to see neons everywhere.
Oh
Dodge
man,
neons
Dodge
neons,
and they were always orange or like copper color.
Yeah, they're always dumb. But get on the road now. Do you see them? Where'd they go? It's like these cars are like there's so many of them for so long.
Wait a minute,
just up and disappear. It's like somebody just picked them up, transported them to outer space, and we've never seen them again. They just disappeared. I don't know where they go.
Domino's using the neons for their cars for a little bit?
Are you talking about when Domino had delivery cars?
I think
because
they were,
now everybody uses their own car. But
I think they were using.
I think most people
neons.
don't even remember. I remember. Like there was companies that had their own delivery cars, and like that went away.
Do you feel like you see newer cars on the road compared to older cars as years go on?
I do, but here's the thing: like
people aren't keeping older cars.
I'm being dead serious. You think about some of these cars that impacted our future to now. Where did those cars go? And everybody goes, well, Cash Clunkers killed all that stuff. And I'm like, but it couldn't have killed
but not
all of them. Not to the
right.
point that you just don't see them. Like, so you go to a stoplight, right? Like now you do now. You go to a stoplight and you'll see 10 Camrys in traffic, right? You'll just see, seriously, I mean, I noticed that. I didn't notice it. I never saw them when I had mine for about the first year. And then after about the first year of me having my new one, then I saw them everywhere.
Like anything like 05 and under is kind of like you really got to search for it now.
But okay, you can pick something that's newer than 05. Pick a car that's newer than 05. I'm trying to think of something that you used to see tons of them all the time. Okay, I'll give you. So let's go back to not 05. Let's go back to like 2002, 2003 Camrys.
Right.
Okay. You used to see them everywhere.
Well, just like
and then they just disappeared off the face of the earth. They just went away.
Right, exactly.
Like you don't even see them.
Like you said, like the 96 Civic, like the Honda Civic.
Okay,
like, Honda's super popular. Everybody knows the name. Like I don't really see that body style anymore at all either.
No, where'd they all go?
Unless they're being customized.
It's just a weird phenomenon. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy or anything. It's just weird that they disappear. And even if you go to the junkyard, you don't see a lot of them. Right. The junkyard, you think like the junkyard.
It's like seasonal. Do you ever see like a junkyard is like kind of seasonal cars? You'll see a bunch of them scattered, and then all of a sudden they start disappearing.
Well, yeah. Do you think they get all the parts robbed off them? That's what it is.
No, I don't. I really don't.
I was just at the junkyard recently, and so they have all the cars that are out there that you can take the parts off of, right? And then over here is where they're crushing, and they were grinding up and tearing cars apart. I mean, like there was just probably about 200 cars sitting over there that were still complete. So then I start going, how do you decipher from which ones you're going to keep and let people take parts off of, and the ones you're just going to grind up?
When does it become like useless?
Right. Like, because I'm looking, I'm like, well, man, that's like a 2012, 2013 that they are just destroying over there right this second. And then over here, you got this like 94 that you got sitting out here to take parts off of. Like, what determines which one's which? Like, is it just by popularity? I don't know.
I guess you do. I guess you do run into that problem where like not everything is universal. So it's kind of like that part's only for that car. If they're not on the street anymore,
I'll give you another one. So here's another one. Now you all remember. So we're gonna go back probably 15 years, maybe now 15 years. What happened to all the Zions that were out on the road?
I don't know.
You remember the Zions?
Not really.
Like, where'd they all go? There was tons of them.
There was a lot of them.
There was a lot of them.
I mean, hey, look, I dated a girl that had a Zion, so.
Right.
But that was in 2018.
Man,
I was surprised she had one. I was like, wait a minute.
You'd pull up to a light, and there was a bunch of them at the light. Now you don't see them. And I'm talking about the toaster looking one too. I can't remember what that one's called. Is that the XB maybe? I think it's the one that looks like the toaster. Because that's all I ever thought about. I was like, it's either a rolling alarm clock or a toaster. It's one of the two. I told you I had an employee that bought one brand new, but he loved it, and I never got it. I didn't understand it. I was just like, so you drive. It's almost like the Cube, the Nissan Cube. I didn't get that either.
Hey, I think the Cube was
that literally looks like a toaster going down the road, or it looks like a small like beatbox going down the road. But that was another one.
That was the trend.
Where'd they all go? Well, they just disappeared.
I don't think people were really buying them. I think that was the
Nissan
part
Cube.
With that.
The Nissan Cube though was actually a cool car if you had like a kit.
No,
it's
not.
None of them were cool.
That's not cool.
That was a fad.
That's like me trying to convince you that the Cavalier was cool. The Cavalier was transportation.
It was transportation.
Don't get me wrong. Now my buddy had a Z24 Cavalier, the older body style, not when they switched to the rounder body style, which I thought it looked cool. I like the body lines on it. I thought it had nice body lines. If you look at the Z24, is that a Cube?
Yeah, that's a Cube.
Camera pulled it up to try to prove wrong.
What if I said it wasn't the Cube? You would have said that was an amazing car.
No, because I recognize it looks like a toaster. Take a look. Tell me that doesn't look like kind of like a toaster.
It does look like a toaster, but it looks like a cool toaster. I mean, I spent a lot of money on
it. Imagine the fishbowl scenario in that car. I mean, it's gonna be so bad.
I think your Uncle Chris had one. He either had a Cube or he had a Zion. He had something.
Look,
and that nature.
Look, if Uncle Chris is listening, my funniest moment is when he showed up in a smart car. Okay,
that wasn't a smart car. It was a Fiat. Now, my brother's like over 6 foot tall, and he came to visit us one time.
That's like the only car they had, right?
It's the only car they had.
He was so mad
he needed to rent a car so bad, and he shows up in like one of those tiny little Fiats. So imagine this big guy getting out of this tiny little car, and I'm like, they didn't have anything else, nothing at all, nothing. Like, I kind of think like you asked for that car. Like, I just kind of feel like you were like, yeah, I'll take that right there. Apparently, they didn't have anything else.
Though. It was funny.
Well, that's like a fat guy getting out of a little car. Right. You just wonder, like, you see him like pride themselves. I mean, my brother's is a skinnier guy, but he's tall and lanky, so to be in a Fiat.
He wore it though. He was like, dude, I'm rocking this car.
Yeah, he was owning it. He was owning it for sure. He was definitely owning it. But it was just weird to see him get out of it. You know what I mean?
You can go to the side, adjust the wheel.
That's another thing. So all those little Fiats that were running around for a while, or better yet, what happened to all the smart cars?
What happened to all
the smart cars? Like when they first came out, they were everywhere. You don't see them anywhere. I know what happened. They all broke down.
Mini Coupes were popular when they first came out.
They still are, and I don't understand why.
Not much.
I never understood the Mini Cooper thing. Can I put another motor in it?
I think they look better than all the other alternatives.
Right, like I said, if I put another motor in it, maybe I understand it a little bit better. Like, so I'm a fan of the killer Miatas, that they put the LSs in the Miatas, and I just think that's just stupid crazy to do. So if you could do something maybe like that to one, I don't know. I know I always say LS it. I can say Coyote motor it for you Ford guys, and it'd be the same thing, but LS just seems to be the most universal swap.
I can't stand the dashboard, so I would not be owning one.
Oh, with the wrap.
Yeah, that's so annoying.
I've been in a couple different ones. Craziest car I was ever in, as far as weird wise, I think I told this story many years ago, was a Ferrari where the shifter was up on the dash sticking out, and you had to shift it, and it was like that. And I don't know which model that was, but it was very, very strange, and it was very awkward. I mean, if you think of Three in the Trees a little strange to drive, try to drive somewhere where the shifter's kind of sticking out at you, and you got to kind of shift it. It just was very, very
race
strange.
Car.
Yeah, not even a race car, but it was just was strange. It came through. I was running an apartment, and none of my guys I'd trust to move it because at that point the car is probably worth $500,000. It was an older one, and I was like,
if your stick shift is upwards, it's a little more valuable.
Right? I was like, I'll move this one. I got to drive a lot of cool cars that way back in the day because a company I worked for got a lot of exotics and stuff that came through. So that's how I got to drive a bunch of different types of Lamborghinis and Ferraris and stuff like that. And I'm not going to say we didn't. I mean, I was young. They might have got stretched out just a little bit when they went to the parking garage.
Do you ever get to a point where you're uncomfortable driving those expensive cars?
No, I'll tell you one of the coolest jobs I had. I think I was 16, just turned 17, and I worked for an auction house out in Chicago. They got a lot of Lamborghinis and stuff like that. And it was an old airport where the auction was at, so the cars were way down in a hangar, and then where the auction house was way over here. So you had about the length of a runway that you had to run back to the auction house where the car was going to be auctioned
warming up the car,
and then take them back to the hangar. And let's just say a lot of things got aired out in that length of the runway to the actual where you ran them to the auction. They had to take them all the way back out to the hangars.
People didn't hear y'all just letting it go.
You had to, because I mean, anything, if it was a Corvette, if it was a Lamborghini, if it was a Ferrari, if it was a Porsche, I can tell you everybody aired them out. I mean, they did. You had to hear us coming. On that note, guys, I got to get out of here. I can't believe the show went by so fast. Make sure, if you are listening, still got a little time, that you guys come out to Church of Ascension over at 4853 Princess Anne Road if you guys are in the Virginia Beach area. If you guys are listening nationwide, thank you for listening. If you didn't catch all the show, you can always go and listen to us on the different podcasts. You guys got anything before we get out of here?
Enjoy your weekend.
All right, guys, we're out of here. Make sure you unplug, spend some time with your kids. Sunday's around the corner. Enjoy yourself. See you later.